President Franklin D. Roosevelt's learning of Nazi Germany's efforts to construct an atomic weapon in 1939 through a letter signed by Albert Einstein, written by Leo Szilard and Eugene Wigner, he created the Advisory Committee on Uranium, which later became the Manhattan Project during World War II. It was during this time that the U.S. created a sphere of plutonium to be used as a fissile core of an atomic bomb, the third bomb scheduled to be dropped on Japan after Little Boy and Fat Man. But upon Japan's surrender, this sphere of plutonium was saved for experimentation in case of a later conflict. During experimentation on the core, and two critical accidents, the sphere obtained the nickname Demon Core. The Demon Core was located at the Los Alamos Laboratory in New Mexico, where experiments were to be conducted on it to determine how close the core was to criticality. These experiments performed on the core were commonly called tickling the tail of the dragon, due to how the smallest slip of the hand could expose the scientists to immense danger. The danger of the Demon Core proved to be overwhelming during both critical accidents, which exposed two scientists to lethal doses of radiation. The first incident happened on August 21, 1945. 24-year-old physicist Harry Daghlian was working with the Demon Core alone late at night trying to build a neutron reflector for a criticality experiment. The experiment consisted of Daghlian placing neutron reflective tungsten carbide bricks around the core. With each brick added, the assembly moved closer to criticality. When placing the last brick, which would cause the assembly to go supercritical, Daghlian dropped it onto the core. This caused Daghlian to be hit with a wave of neutron radiation. He quickly removed the brick from the assembly, which exposed him to more radiation. 25 days after this incident, Daghlian died in the hospital from acute radiation syndrome. The second incident occurred only 9 months later, on May 21, 1946. Physicist Louis Slaton was demonstrating a criticality experiment to Alvin C. Graves and 6 others so they could continue to run one final experiment on the core before Operation Crossroads, due to Slaton's departure from Los Alamos. The experiment consisted of bringing together 2 half spheres of beryllium around the core. The halves always needed to maintain separation so neutrons could escape and the core would not become critical. The protocol for this experiment was to use special shims placed between the halves to keep them separated. During Slaton's demonstration, instead of using the shims, he used a flat-tip screwdriver to maintain the separation. It was during this demonstration that Slaton's hand slipped, causing the sphere to close. As the sphere closed around the core, there was a flash of blue light. Slaton immediately threw the top half of the sphere off the core. A drawing of the men's placement in the room was made to determine the amount of radiation that each person had been exposed to. Slaton was exposed to 1,000 rads of radiation and died 9 days later. The other men in the room were exposed to non-lethal doses of the radiation. Both Daghlian and Slaton's accidents happened on a Tuesday. They both occurred on the 21st of the month, and they both died in the same hospital room in the U.S. Engineers Hospital. After the second incident that resulted in Slaton's death, various safety protocols were instated at Los Alamos. All criticality experiments were to be conducted remotely, separating the scientists and radioactive material by a quarter mile. The machines created for these remote experiments were created by Raymer Edgar Schreiber, a survivor of the second incident. This deadly core was melted down in the summer of 1946 to be recycled and used in other cores for atomic bombs. The Demon Core is a prime example of the harmful effects of radiation. One core could cause so much damage without ever being detonated due to shortcuts and complacency of brilliant minds.